A Letter to God by G.L. Fuentes, Part 2. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope, help from God. Don't be so upset, even though this seems like a total loss. Remember, no one dies of hunger. That's what they say. No one dies of hunger. So here, Lenjo, who was living alone, solitary means existing alone, who was living alone in that valley with his family, was thinking that okay, now the only hope remaining for us is the help from God. And he was saying to himself that this is not a total loss. Nobody is going to die out of hunger. At least that is what other people are saying, that nobody is going to die out of hunger. And because of their faith in God, they always had hope that today or tomorrow they are going to survive. All through the night, Lenjo thought only of his one hope, the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. So, throughout the night, Lenjo was thinking about his only hope, that is, the help from God. And from childhood itself, Lenjo was taught that God knows everything, God sees everything, and He even knows what is hidden deep down in one's conscience, too. Conscience means an inner sense of right and wrong. Lenjo was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to write. The following Sunday, at daybreak, he began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. It was nothing less than a letter to God. So, what does it mean by an ox of a man? An ox of a man means a hard-working person. So, Lenjo was a hard-working person. He was like an animal in his fields. He used to work really hard in his field, and not only that, he knew how to write. Even though he was a farmer, he was a literate person. So, on the following Sunday, during the time of daybreak means sunrise. So at the time of sunrise, Lenjo starts to write a letter, and he takes that letter along with him and goes to the town and places it in the mail. And that letter was addressed to none other than God Himself. So he has written a letter to God. God, he wrote, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes because the hailstorm, so on. So, in his letter, he started to explain his present condition to God, and he demands 100 pesos from God. Now, peso means a currency of several Latin American country. So basically, Lenjo here is demanding for some money from God so that he can sow his field and also survive during that time also, because everything he had was destroyed in the hailstorm. Now there is nothing left for him. He wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside, and still troubled went to town. At the post office, he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. Here Lenjo is getting ready to post the letter. For that, he takes the letter, puts inside an envelope, and addresses the letter to God. So he goes straight to the town, and when he reaches the post office, he takes the stamp and places on the envelope, and he puts it in the mailbox. One of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at the post office, went to his boss laughing heartily and showed him the letter to God. Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. The postmaster, a fat, amiable fellow, also broke out laughing, but almost immediately he turned serious and tapping the letter on his desk, commented, what faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter, starting up a correspondence with God. So what happens here is that the postman who usually comes and collects these letters from the mailbox comes over there and takes out the letters, and suddenly he sees a letter which is addressed to God, and by seeing that he burst into laughter because in his career he has never seen a letter which is addressed to God. So he takes the letter laughing and gives it or shows it to the postmaster, and postmaster, who is a fat and amiable fellow, here amiable means a friendly and pleasant person. Okay, so this postmaster, who is a friendly person, also starts starts laughing like anything. But suddenly he realizes that okay, this is not a matter to laugh at, but it is actually a matter of faith. The person whoever wrote this letter has intense faith in God, and that is the only reason he has written a letter to God. So here the postmaster says that the person whoever wrote this letter is starting up a correspondence with God. So here correspondence means that a communication with letter. So from the letter, the postmaster was able to understand that Lenjo here was trying to establish a communication with God through the medium of letters. So, in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea: answer the letter. But when he opened it, it was evident that to answer it he needed something more than goodwill, ink, and paper. But he stuck to his resolution. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. It was impossible for him to gather together the 100 pesos, so he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lenjo, and with it a letter containing only a single word as signature: God. Here, in order to keep that person's faith in God, the postmaster decides to answer that letter. But when he opened the letter, he was able to understand that not only goodwill, ink, and paper are sufficient for answering this letter, but he needs 100 pesos to answer this letter, because Lenjo has asked for 100 pesos from God. That's why he basically wrote this letter, right? But being a good man, he stuck to his resolution. The postman stuck to his resolution. Now, what is resolution? Resolution means decision. So he stuck to his resolution that he is going to answer that letter, and he is going to collect the necessary amount of money. So for that he asked some of his employees, and he has provided a part of his salary, and he asked many a number of friends to provide for this act of charity. And from this we are able to understand that God acts in mysterious ways, right? This postmaster is a messenger of God. Lenjo is in need of money. Lenjo is in trouble, and in order to help Lenjo, God acts through postmaster. If postmaster is not necessarily God, okay, but postmaster act as a messenger of God. That's why postmaster was able to understand the situation of Lenjo, and he is ready to take up that responsibility, and he is ready to act for a good cause. Even though, along with the postmaster, many a number of people has contributed to the good cause, he was only able to gather more than half amount of the money that Lenjo has demanded. Still, he put the money in an envelope addressed to Lenjo, and he only wrote a single word in that letter. Okay, so inside the letter there is more than half of the amount of money that Lenjo demanded, and there is a, now the postmaster has placed a paper inside it, and he only wrote a single word, that is God. So he signed the letter as God. The following Sunday, Lenjo came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. So on the next day, Lenjo goes to the post office and asks the people over there whether there is a letter addressed to him, because he has such an amount of confidence that God is going to write a reply letter for him. Such was his faith in God. So it was the postman himself who handed the letter to him, while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment of a man who has performed a good deed, looked on from his office. Now, what is the meaning of contentment? Contentment means satisfaction. So, while Lenjo asked this question to the people in the post office, the postman who had earlier taken Lenjo's letter from the mailbox comes over there and gives him the answer letter, the reply letter. Okay, and the postmaster who had actually gathered all this money and took the initiative for this good cause is now sitting in his own office and looking throughout his window, and seeing all these things, and he is feeling a kind of satisfaction because he has done a good deed. He did something good and he is feeling satisfied. Then Lenjo showed not a slightest surprise on seeing the money. Such was his confidence. So he opened the envelope and he was able to see what money inside the envelope. But by seeing the money, he was not surprised at all, because he had such confidence. He believed, or he knew, actually he knew that God is going to send the necessary amount of money that he was in need of. But he became angry when he counted the money. But when he started to count the money, Lenjo became really angry. God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lenjo what he had requested. So here he is thinking to himself that God could not make a mistake in counting the amount of money, nor he could have denied what he had requested, because his request was genuine. He demanded the 100 pesos because he genuinely was in need of that money. So God could not make a mistake, nor he is going to deny his request, his genuine request. Immediately, Lenjo went up to the window to ask for a paper and ink. On the public writing table, he started to write, with much wrinkling of his brow caused by the effort he had to make to express his ideas. So, what happens immediately after receiving and counting the money inside the letter? He straightway goes to the window of the post office, asks for a paper and ink, and starts to write in the public writing table itself. And while he is writing, we are able to see the stress or struggle to express his ideas through the letter on his face. How? By the wrinkling of his brows. That shows he is struggling to express his ideas through the letter. When he finished, he went to the window to buy a stamp, which he licked and then affixed to the envelope with a blow of his fist. The moment the letter fell into the mailbox, the postmaster went to open it. So, when Lenjo finished writing the letter, he licks the letter and pastes it with the envelope and puts it in the mailbox. And at the very moment when the letter fell into the mailbox, the postmaster went, took it, and he opened it. He might be thinking that okay, the letter might be containing what? Thank you, right? He might be feeling gratitude towards the person or towards whoever has sent this much amount of money. So he might be writing a thank you letter, and with this expectation, the postmaster goes over there. He's in a very much satisfied kind of mood, right? So he goes over there, he takes the letter from the mailbox and he opens it, ready to read. It said, God, of the money that I asked for, only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest, since I need it very much. So, inside the letter, it is written like this, that God, only 70 pesos of money has reached me. You have to send the rest of the money. So, here Lenjo might be thinking that, okay, God is divine, right? God cannot make a mistake. God might have actually sent me the 100 pesos, but somebody have took the rest of the money. Only 70 pesos reached me. Okay, then, but don't send it to me through the mail, because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks, Lenjo. So here it all explains, right? So here Lenjo says that what? The rest of the money you should be sending me, but don't send it through mail. So that means what? God, please do not put the money in an envelope and do not send it through a letter, because the earlier money that you have sent me has not reached me, because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. Crooks means whom? Thieves or cheats. Okay, so the post office employees are a bunch of thief. They might have took the rest of the money. So due to that reason, you should not be sending the money again through letter. Send it to me in person by Lenjo. So from here we are able to understand that Lenjo has deep faith in God, but at the same time he doesn't have the slightest faith towards his fellow human beings. He believes in God. He is sure that God has sent him the money and God cannot make any mistakes. But at the same time he doubts the very same people who took the initiative of helping him. Actually, the postmaster and the employees along with their friends are the one who sent him this much of money, who helped him, right? Only 70 pesos they were able to collect, but still that is an amount which can be helpful to Lenjo. But Lenjo is not satisfied with that. Lenjo needs the full amount of money. Understand? That is the other thing of the story. Okay, Lenjo needs the full amount of money. That means he is an adamant kind of person, though he is a faithful person. So here the postmaster might be expecting a gratitude note from Lenjo, but instead he is blamed or accused of stealing the rest of the amount of money. So we are able to understand that Lenjo is a firm believer of God, but he doesn't have the slightest faith in his fellow beings. So with this we come to an end of our chapter. Thank you.